Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review. Now, I have to say that I have been reading a lot of books of late. That's simply because I took a week off work and I pretty much just read. One of those days I read 5 hours straight and got through a couple of the books. And so I had a few books on the go, and I know it's a question that a lot of people are asking. They go, how do you find time to read so many books? The thing is, I only work 3 days a week. I have a couple of days off plus my weekends to just simply sit and read. Now, a lot of the other times is I don't watch too many Netflix. I don't watch a lot of shows, although I'm on YouTube quite a lot. However, reading is my thing. I really do enjoy it and I make time for it as much as possible. So let's talk about the book that I want to review today. And this one I saw in the library. I got a whole stack of books in the library recently after our lockdown finished and the libraries opened up. So I madly rushed out there and grabbed a whole heap of books that I could read during my leave. And so this one I picked up, and it is a non-fiction book, and I must admit I don't really know why I picked it up. It just seemed interesting because I have been seeing and also chatting to people about loneliness and how our technology also at times make us feel isolated. And maybe there was also an element of the fact that being in Melbourne and being under 6 lockdowns with a total of 263 days of being inside the house and going a little bit stir crazy, and also having a lot of time to reflect exactly on what I'm doing with my life, how I'm working, how I'm connecting with people, and how much of it is also online, that I've started to think maybe I am actually being disconnected in some way, even though these tools allow us to connect with people all around the world. What I found in the last lockdown 6.0, as we called it here in Melbourne, is in fact this last lockdown has actually been one of the hardest lockdowns, because for me and for my family and friends, I felt that we were all somehow retreating into ourselves. We had reached a point where we were just tired. We didn't know how long the lockdown would last. You actually did felt as if you were disconnecting from your family and friends in some way, just going into yourself. And so when I saw this book on the bookshelves, I thought, I'm going to get it and see what Maggie has to say. So it's Maggie Hamilton's When We Become Strangers, How Loneliness Leaks into Our Lives and What We Can Do About It. Now look, as someone whose whole life and love and also work is to do with technology, I know that technology also has given us avenues to connect with other people, to collaborate, to find people and tap into networks and communities that can help us in our work and life. I totally get that. On the other hand, though, I can also see how technology is actually removing the human connection in some ways. None more so than recently in the last week we had Mark Zuckerberg's marketing and promotion of his metaverse, and similarly Microsoft's meta world of augmented and mixed reality in our workplace. So we're going towards, I guess, a future where the different realities and different technologies will allow us to intermingle, not only face to face, not only through these medium, but also within alternate universes. And I know a lot of gamers are already doing this, but it's going to be pervading a lot more in our lives. And so what does this mean for people to get, I guess, disconnected or maybe even lonely because they're not facing people in real life? So this was the reason why I had borrowed this book, because I thought maybe there are things that I could learn about how to bring back that connection again, especially when I felt so disconnected in lockdown 6.0. So let's look at some of the contents in this book. Now, she starts off talking about Our Brave New World, which is what I mentioned here before. And she tops up, the first couple is related to iGen kids and parenting. And as a non-parent, but as someone who's got a nephew and also family members, I also have noticed how much kids are online. Their whole world happens to be in an iPad, in different worlds and games and her schoolings. So what does that mean for kids growing up with, and the lack, of human connection? So she talks about iGen kids and how to engage with children of that generation, but she also talks about what you can do as a parent. In the next table of contents, as you can see here, there's also, she talks about things like, looking for love and what does that mean with privacy. She talks about how our love for reality TV and how we are watching reality TV and what is it really doing for us when we're watching other people experience something as opposed to us experiencing it ourselves. She talks about the pitfalls of being home alone, having our food ordered, having all our connections online, having all our work online, that we're constantly in our own home and we're having things delivered to us. So what does that mean for our community work? What does it mean for society? She also talks about having a curated life, how some people curate everything in their life so that it is perfect. So what's it mean by, having this perfect life or having to keep up with the perfect life? She then talks about the impact to empathy, the impact on our human connections, the impact to our communities, and how they're being impacted with regards to lack of volunteerism and also helping each other out, and how it's actually affecting our brains. There is a component of the book related to work. This was really interesting for me, I guess, as someone who also works in the space of technology and helping people understand how to use these technologies for learning, for collaborating, for building communities, for network building. And she talks about the challenges of understanding the current work ethos. Now, I have to say, elements of this work section, the work section was old simply because it was pre-COVID. She talks a lot about flexible work, but also around hot desking. Now, hot desking pre-2020 is now an old concept. Hot desking just is not a thing anymore. Whereas in 2020 and prior to COVID, it was a thing. I remember my days of being in a corporate workplace where all my work and my computer and everything that I needed for the day fitted in into a locker no bigger than this book. And I had to grab all my things every morning, go and find a workstation somewhere. If it wasn't occupied by someone, or if it was occupied, go find a meeting room or a bench space or a beanbag or somewhere. I just had to put my stuff down somewhere and have to work in an open plan environment with a lot of noise around me. And it used to frustrate the hell out of me. I thought, how is this being effective? And what would happen is I would have to come in to work early, go into an office, find a space where I could just put my things down and work. And it was a time where I just wanted a cubicle. Anything for my life for a cubicle. I just wanted my own space at work. But that part of the book now, it's been and gone. And it's so amazing to think that that was only 2 years ago, pre-COVID, that our thinking has automatically changed. So now she talks about flexible work and what that work means with regards to people being at work or at home. Now, the last chapter of this book is all about new social designs of cities and how we've got to get smarter with how cities are designed to cater for this kind of new ways of work. Look, at times I must admit that part of this book, I felt the loneliness issue was being diluted because it wasn't referenced with regards to the work component. You know, how are people feeling lonely at work? How are they feeling socially isolated? What are some like the tools and the tactics that they do to connect with their peers at work, while knowing that some peers are actually in the office, some peers are at home, some peers are on the road, some peers are actually working in client sites or wherever. But I think that's because it was written in at that place of pre and COVID times. So, you know, we're still just figuring things out. So these are some of the lessons that I learned from this book. Now, I have to say that at the end of each chapter, she does have ways and strategies of what you can do with regards to, you know, in this chapter was brain fatigue, how to reduce brain fatigue. In this one was inviting more empathy into your life. And let's have a look. One is on transforming workplace culture for the workplace solutions. So she does provide some recommendations and suggestions at the end of each chapter to reduce the loneliness that comes from using these tools. Okay, I would highly recommend this book. It got me thinking about technology, and I guess my main lesson, my main learning point from this is that yes, even though my work is in technology, even if technology for me has afforded me so many opportunities for building networks and building communities and tapping into a whole heap of different people out there who have brought to me experiences such as helping them write their books, or helping me find new work, or, you know, inviting me to speak at conferences all around the world, and the experiences. I think ultimately, yes, technology does help, but I've got to balance it out with also having and forcing myself to get outside, to meet people, to connect with people, to ask questions, to do the human things that we used to do pre-technology, so that we're not always constantly just down looking at our devices when there is a person next to us on the train, on the tram, on the bus, wherever, that we can have a conversation and find out more about them. Just those human connections, we shouldn't let those go. So that is it. That's When We Become Strangers by Maggie Hamilton. Look, seek this out. Let me know what you think if you've read this book. Okay then, bye for now.